So they grieved at Troy while Achaea's troops pulled back. Once they reached the warships moored at the Hellespont, the contingents scattered, each man to his own ship. But Achilles still would not dismiss his Myrmidons. He gave his battle-loving comrades strict commands. Charioteers in fast formation, friends to the death. We must not loose our teams from the war cars yet. All in battle order, drive them past Patroclus. The cortege will mourn the man with teams and chariots. These are the solemn honors owed the dead. And then, after we've eased our hearts with tears and dirge, we free the teams and all take supper here. All as one, the armies cried out in sorrow, and Achilles led the chant. 3 times they drove their full maned stallions round the body. Myrmidon soldiers mourning, and among them Thetis stirred a deep desire to grieve. And the sands grew wet. The armor of fighting men grew wet with tears. Such bitter longing he roused. Patroclus, that terror who routed Trojans headlong. Achilles led them now in a throbbing chant of sorrow, laying his man-killing hands on his great friend's chest. Farewell, Patroclus, even here in the house of death. Look, all that I promised once, I am performing now. I've dragged Hector here for the dogs strip him raw, and here, in front of your flaming pyre, I'll cut the throats of a dozen sons of Troy in all their shining glory, venting my rage on them for your destruction. So he triumphed, and again he was bent on outrage, on shaming noble Hector. He flung him face down in the dust beside Patroclus' bier, and down to the last unit all eased off their armor, fine burnished bronze, and released their neighing teams, and took their seats by the swift runner Achilles' ship, Myrmidons in their thousands. And he set them before them all a handsome funeral feast to meet their heart's desire. And many pale white oxen sank on the iron knife, gasping in slaughter. Many sheep and bleating goats, and droves of swine with their long glinting tusks, succulent, rich with fat. They singed the bristles, splaying the porkers out across Hephaestus' fire, then poured the blood in cupfuls all around the corpse. But now their commander, swift Achilles, was led away by Achaea's kings, barely able to bring him round, still raging for his friend, to feast with Agamemnon. As soon as the party reached the warlord's tents, they ordered the clear-voiced heralds straightway to set a large 3-legged cauldron over the fire, still in hopes of inducing Peleus' royal son to wash the clotted bloodstains from his body. He spurned their offer, firmly swore an oath. No! No, by Zeus! By the highest, greatest God, it's sacrilege for a single drop to touch my head, till I place Patroclus on his pyre, and heap his mound, and cut my hair for him. For a second grief, this harsh will never touch my heart, while I am still among the living. But now let us consent to the feasting that I loathe, and at daybreak, Marshal Agamemnon, rouse your troops to fell and haul in timber, and furnish all that's fitting, all the dead man needs for his journey down the western dock. Then by heaven the tireless fire can strike his corpse, the sooner to burn Patroclus from our sight, and the men turn back to battles they must wage. So he insisted. They hung on his words, compelled, rushed to prepare the meal, and each man feasted well, and no man's hunger lacked a share of the banquet. When they had put aside desire for food and drink, each went his way and slept in his own shelter. But along the shore, as battle lines of breakers crashed and dragged, Achilles lay down now, groaning deep from the heart, near his Myrmidon force, but alone, on open ground, where over and over rollers washed along the shore. No sooner had sleep caught him, dissolving all his grief as mists of refreshing slumber poured around him there. His powerful frame was bone weary from charging Hector straight and hard to the walls of windswept Troy. Then the ghost of stricken Patroclus drifted up. He was like the man to the life, every feature, the same tall build and the fine eyes and voice and the very robes that used to clothe his body. Hovering at his head, the phantom rose and spoke.
Sleeping Achilles, you've forgotten me, my friend. You never neglected me in life. Only now in death. Defeat me quickly. Let me pass the gates of Hades. They hold me off at a distance. All is the soul, the shades of the burned out, breathless. Never let me cross the river. Mingle with them. They leave me to wander up and down, abandoned. In the house of death, the all-embracing gates. Give me your hand, I beg you with my tears. Never again shall I return from Hades. Once you have given me the soothing release of thought. Never again will you and I alive and breathing, side by side, from loyal comrades, making plans together. Never. Grim death. A death assigned from the day that I was born has spread its hateful jaws to take me down. And you too. Your fate awaits you too. Godlike as you are, Achilles. Die in battle beneath the proud, rich Trojans' walls. But one thing more, a last request. Grant it, please. Never bury my bones apart from yours, Achilles. Let them lie together, just as we grew up together in your house, after Menetius brought me there, Opois, only a boy, but banished for bloody murder, the day I killed Anthemimus' son. I was a fool. I never meant to kill him. Quarreling over a dice game. Then the famous horseman Peleus took me into his hold. He reared me with kindness, appointed me your aide. So now, let a single turn. The gold two-handled urn your noble mother gave you. Hold our bones together.
And the swift runner Achilles reassured him warmly. Why have you returned to me here, dear brother, friend? Why tell me of all that I must do, all. I'll do it all. I will obey you, your demands. Come closer. Throw our arms around each other, just for a moment. Take some joy in the tears that numb the heart. In the same breath, he stretched his loving arms, but could not seize him. No, the ghost slipped underground like a wisp of smoke, with a high, thin cry. And Achilles sprang up with a start and, staring wide, drove his fists together and cried in desolation, God. So even in death's strong house, there is something left. A ghost, a phantom. True, but no real breath of life. All night long, the ghost of stricken Patroclus hovered over me, grieving, sharing warm tears, telling me point by point what I must do. Like the man to the life. So he grieved, and his outcry stirred in them all a deep desire to grieve, and Dawn, with her rose-red fingers, shone upon them, weeping round the wretched corpse. At daybreak, King Agamemnon ordered parties of men and mules to haul in timber, pouring from the tents with a good man in charge, the lordly Idomeneus aid-in-arms Meriones. The troops moved out with loggers' axes in hand and sturdy cabled ropes as mules trudged on ahead. Uphill, downhill, crisscross, zigzag, on they tramped, and once they reached the slopes of Ida, with all her springs, quickly pitched themselves at towering, leaf-crowned oaks. They put their backs into strokes of the whetted bronze axes, and huge trunks came crashing down. They split them apart, lashed the logs to the mules, and their hoofs tore up the earth, dragging them down to level ground through dense brush. And all the woodcutters hoisted logs themselves, by command of Idomeneus' good aid, Meriones. And they heaved them down and rose along the beach at the site Achilles chose to build an immense mound for Patroclus and himself. With boundless timber piled on all sides of the place, down they sat, waiting, massed, and once Achilles called his Myrmidons keen for battle. Belt yourselves in bronze, each driver yoke his team, chariots harnessed. Up they rose, and strapped on armor and swung aboard the war cars, drivers, fighters beside them, and the horse moved out in front. Behind came clouds of infantry, men by thousands, and in their midst his comrades bore Patroclus. They covered his whole body, deep with locks of hair. They cut, cast upon him, and just behind them brilliant Achilles held the head in tears. This was his steadfast friend, whom he escorted down to the house of death. When they reached the site Achilles had pointed out, they laid Patroclus down and swiftly built his body, a fitting height of timber. And now the great runner remembered one more duty. Stepping back from the pyre, he cut the red gold lock he'd let grow long as a gift to the river god Sperchus. Scanning the wine dark sea, he prayed in anguish, Sperchus, all in vain my father Peleus vowed to you that there once I had journeyed home to my own dear fatherland. I'd cut this lock for you and offer splendid victims. Dedicate 50 young ungelded rams to your springs. There, at the spot where your grove and smoking altar stand, so the old king vowed. But you've destroyed his hopes. Now, since I shall not return to my fatherland, I'd give my friend this lock, and let the hero Patroclus bear it on his way. With that, Achilles placed the lock in his dear comrade's hands and stirred in the men again a deep desire to grieve. And now the sunlight would have set upon their tears if Achilles had not turned to Agamemnon quickly. Atrides, you're the first the armies will obey. Even of sorrow men can have their fill. So now dismiss them from the pyre. Have them prepare an evening meal. We are the closest to the dead. We'll see to all things here. But I'd like the leading captains to remain. Hearing his wish, the lord of men, Agamemnon, dismissed the troops at once to the balanced ships, but the chief mourners stayed in place, piled timber, and built a pyre 100 feet in length and breadth. And aloft it laid the corpse with heavy, aching hearts, and droves of fat sheep and shambling, crooked-horned cattle they led before the pyre, skinned and dressed them well. And the great-hearted Achilles, flensing fat from all, wrapped the corpse with folds of it, head to foot, then heaped the flayed carcasses around Patroclus. He set two-handled jars of honey and oil beside him, leaned them against the bier, and then with wild zeal slung the bodies of 4 massive stallions onto the pyre and gave a wrenching groan. And the dead Lord Patroclus had fed 9 dogs at table. He slit the throats of 2, threw them onto the pyre, and then a dozen brave sons of the proud Trojans he hacked to pieces with his bronze. Achilles' mighty heart was erupting now with slaughter. He loosed the iron rage of fire to consume them all, and he cried out, calling his dear friend by name, "Farewell, Patroclus, even there in the house of death. All that I promised once I have performed at last. Here are 12 brave sons of the proud Trojans. All the fire that feeds on you devours them all, but not Hector, the royal son of Priam. Hector I will never give to the hungry flames. Wild dogs will bolt his flesh." So he threatened. But the dogs were not about to feed on Hector. Aphrodite, daughter of Zeus, beat off the packs day and night, anointing Hector's body with oil, ambrosial oil of roses, so Achilles could not rip the prince's skin as he dragged him back and forth. Around him Phoebus Apollo brought a dark cloud down from high sky to the plain to shroud the entire space where Hector's body lay, before the sun's white fury could sear away his flesh, his limbs, sinews. But the pyre of dead Patroclus was not burning, and the swift runner Achilles thought of what to do. Stepping back from the pyre, he prayed to the 2 winds, Zephyr and Boreas, west and north, promised splendid victims, and pouring generous brimming cups from a golden goblet, begged them to come, so the wood might burst in flame and the dead burn down to ash with all good speed. And Iris, hearing his prayers, rushed the message on to the winds that gathered now in stormy Zephyr's halls to share his brawling banquet. Iris swept to a stop, and once they saw her poised at the stone threshold, all sprang up. Each urged her to sit beside him, but she refused, pressing on with her message. "No time for sitting now. No, I must return to the ocean's running stream, the Ethiopians' land. They are making a splendid sacrifice to the gods. I must not miss my share of the sacred feast. But I bring Achilles' prayers. He begs you to come at once, Boreas, blustering Zephyr. He promises splendid victims. Come with a strong blast, and light the pyre where Patroclus lies in state, and all the Argive armies mourn around him." Message delivered, off she sped as the winds rose with a superhuman roar, stampeding clouds before them, suddenly reaching the open sea in gale force, whipping white caps under a shrilling killer squall. They razed the good rich soil of Troy and struck the pyre, and a huge inhuman blaze went howling up the skies. All night long they hurled the flames massed in the pyre, blast on screaming blast, and all night long the swift Achilles, lifting a 2-handled cup, dipped wine from a golden bowl, and poured it down on the ground and drenched the earth, calling out to the ghost of stricken gaunt Patroclus, as a father weeps when he burns his son's bones, dead on his wedding day. and his death has plunged his parents in despair. So Achilles wept as he burned his dear friend's bones, dragging himself around the pyre, choked with sobs. At that hour, the morning star comes rising up to herald a new day on earth. And riding in its wake, the dawn flings out her golden robe across the sea. The funeral fires sank low, the flames died down, and the winds swung round and headed home again, over the Thracian sea. And the heaving swells moaned, and at last Achilles, turning away from the corpse fire, sank down, exhausted. The sweet sleep overwhelmed him. But Agamemnon's followers grouped together now, and as they approached Achilles, the din and trampling of their feet awoke him, and he sat up with a start and made his wishes known. Atrides, chiefs of Achaea's united forces, first put out the fires with glistening wine wherever the flames still burn in all their fury. Then let us collect the bones of Menoetius' son Patroclus and pick them out with care. They cannot be mistaken. He lay amidst the pyre, apart from all the others, burned at the edge, the ruck of men and horses. Then let us place his bones in a golden urn, sealed tight and dry, with a double fold of fat, till I myself lie hid in the strong house of death. For his barrow, build him nothing large, I ask you, something right for the moment, and then later Achaeans can work to make it broad and lofty, all who survive me here, alive in the benched ships, when I am gone. And then men obeyed the swift runner's orders. They first put out the fires with glistening wine, far as the flames had spread and the ashes bedded deep. In tears they gathered their gentle comrades' white bones, all in a golden urn, sealed with a double fold of fat, and stowed the urn in his shelter, covered well with a light linen shroud, then laid his barrow out. Around the pyre they planted a ring of stone revetments, piled the loose earth high in a mound above the ring, and once they'd heaped the barrow, turned to leave. But Achilles held the armies on the spot. He had them sit in a great and growing circle, now for funeral games, and brought from his ships the trophies for the contests: cauldrons, tripods, stallions, mules, cattle with massive heads, women sashed and lovely, and gleaming gray iron. First, the fastest charioteers, he set out glittering prizes. A woman to lead away, flawless, skilled in crafts, and a two-eared tripod, 22 measures deep. All that for the first prize. Then for the runner-up, he brought forth a mare, unbroken, 6 years old, with a mule foal in her womb. And for the third, he produced a fine 4-measure cauldron, never scorched by flames, its sheen as bright as new. For the fourth, he set out 2 gold bars, and for the fifth, untouched by fire as well, a good 2-handled jar. And he rose up tall, and he challenged all the Argives. Atrides, Achaeans at arms, let the games begin. The trophies lie afield, they await the charioteers. If we held our games now in an other hero's honor, surely I'd walk off to my tent with first prize. You know how my team outstrips all others' speed. Immortal horses they are. Poseidon gave them himself to my father Peleus. Peleus passed them on to me. But I and our fast stallions will not race today. So strong his fame, the charioteer they've lost. So kind, always washing them down with fresh water, sleeking their long manes with smooth olive oil. No wonder they stand here mourning. Look, trailing those very manes along the ground, they both refuse to move, saddled down with grief. But all the rest of you, come, all Achaeans in camp who trust to your teams and bolted chariots, take your places now. Achilles' call rang out, and it brought the fastest drivers crowding forward. The first by far, Eumelus, lord of men, sprang up, Admetus' prized son, who excelled in horsemanship, and following him, Tydides, powerful Diomedes, yoking the breed of Tros he'd wrestled from Aeneas just the other day when Apollo saved their master. Then Atreus' son, Menelaus, the red-haired captain, born of the gods, leading under the yoke his racers, Blaze, Agamemnon's mare, and his own stallion, Brightfoot. Anchises' son, Echepolus, gave Agamemnon Blaze, a gift that bought him off from the king's armies, bound for windy Troy. He'd stay right where he was, a happy man, since Zeus had given him vast wealth, and he lived in style on Sicion's broad dancing rings. His was the mare Atrides harnessed, champing for the race, and the fourth, to yoke his full main team, was Antilochus, the splendid son of Nestor, the old high-hearted king, Lord Neleus' offspring. A team of Pylian purebreds drew his chariot. His father stood at his ease, lending sound advice to the boy's own good sense. Young as you are, Antilochus, how the gods have loved you! Zeus and Poseidon taught you horsemanship, every sort, so there's no great need for me to set you straight. Well, you know how to double round the post, huh? But you've got the slowest nags. A handicap, I'd say. Yeah, and even if other teams are faster, look at the drivers. There's not a trick in their whips that you don't have at hand. So plan your attack, my friend. Muster all your skills, or watch the prize slip by. It's skill, not brawn, that makes the finest woodsman. By skill, too, the captain holds his ship on course, scudding the wide and dark sea, though rocked by gales. By skill alone, charioteer outraces charioteer. The average driver, leaving all to team and car, recklessly makes his turn, veering left and right, and his pair swerving over the course. He can't control them. But the cunning driver, even handling slower horses, always watches the post. Turns it close, never loses the first chance to relax his reins and stretch his pair, but he holds them tight till then. Eyes on the leader. Now the turn itself. It's clear, you cannot miss it. There's a dead tree stump standing 6 feet high. It's a oak or pine, not rotted through by the rains, and it's propped up 2 white stones on either side. That's your halfway mark, where the home stretch starts, and there's plenty of good smooth racing room round it. It's either the grave mound of a man dead long ago, or men who lived before us set it up as a goal. Now, in any event, swift Achilles makes it his turning post, and you must hug it close, as you haul your team and chariot round. But you, in your tight, strong car, you lean to the left yourself, just a bit, as you whip your right-hand horse hard, shoot him on, slacken your grip, and give him rein. But make your left horse hug that post so close, the hub of your well-turned wheel will almost seem to scrape the rock. Just careful not to graze it. You'll maim your team, you'll smash your car to pieces, a joy to your rivals, rank disgrace to yourself. So, keep your head, my boy. Be on the lookout. Trail the field out, but pass them all at the post. No one can catch you then, or overtake you with a surge. Not if a man behind you were driving huge Arion, Adrastus lightning stallion sired by the gods, or Laomedon's team. Yeah, the greatest bred in Troy. Nestor sat down again. He'd shown his son the ropes, the last word in the master horseman's skills. Now, after Meriones yoked his sleek horses 5th, they boarded their cars and dropped lots in a helmet. Achilles shook it hard, and Antilochus' lot leapt out, and so he drew the inside track. Next in the draw came hardy Lord Eumelus. Atrides Menelaus, the famous spearman, next, and Meriones drew the 4th starting lane. And Tydides Diomedes drew the 5th and last, the best of them all by far at driving battle teams. All pulled up abreast as Achilles pointed out the post, far off on the level plain, and stationed there beside it an umpire, old Lord Phoenix, his father's aide in arms, to mark the field at the turn and make a true report. Ready? Whips raised high? At the signal, all together lashed their horses' backs and shouted, urging them on. They broke in a burst of speed, in no time swept the plain, leaving the ships behind and lifting under their chests. The dust clung to the teams like clouds or swirling gales. As the rains went streaming back and the gusty, tearing wind, the cars shot on, now jouncing along the earth that rears us all, now bounding clear in the air, but the drivers kept erect in the lurching cars, and the heart of each man raced, straining for victory. Each man yelled at his pair as they flew across the plain in a whirl of dust. But just out of the turn, starting the homestretch back to sunlit sea, the horses lunged. Each driver showed his form. The whole field went racing full tilt, and at once the fast mares of Eumelus surged forward in front. After him came Diomedes' team, Trusses stallions, hardly a length behind now, closing at each stride, and at any moment it seemed they'd mount Eumelus' car, their hot breaths steaming his back and broad shoulders, their heads hovering over him, breakneck on they flew. And now he'd have passed him or forced to dead heat if Apollo, all of a sudden raging at Diomedes, had not knocked the shining whip from his fist. Tears of rage came streaming down his cheeks as he watched Eumelus' mares pulling farther ahead, and his team losing pace, no whip to lash them on. But Athena, missing nothing of Phoebus' foul play that robbed Diomedes, sped to the gallant captain, handed him back his whip, primed his team with power, and flying after Admetus' son in full immortal fury, the goddess smashed his yoke. His mares bolted apart, careening off the track, and his pole plowed the ground, and Eumelus hurled from the chariot, tumbling over the wheel. The skin was ripped from his elbows, mouth, and nostrils, his forehead battered in, scraped raw at the brows, tears filling his eyes, his booming voice choked. But veering round the wreck, Diomedes steered his racers, shooting far ahead of the rest, leaving them in the dust, as Athena fired his team and gave the man his glory, and after him came Atrides, red-haired Menelaus, next Antilochus, urging his father's horses, drive! The two of you, full stretch and fast. I don't tell you to match the leader's speed, skilled Diomedes' team. Look, Athena herself just fired their pace and gave their master glory. But catch Menelaus' pair fast, and don't get left behind, or Blaze will shower the two of you with disgrace. Blaze is a mare. Why, falling back, my brave ones, I warn you both, so help me, it's the truth. No more grooming for you at Nestor's hands. The old driver will slaughter you on the spot with a sharp bronze blade if you slack off now and we take a lesser prize. After them, faster, full gallop. I'll find the way. I've got the skill to slip past him there where the track narrows. I'll never miss my chance. Whipped with fear by the master's threats, they put on a fresh burst for a length or two, but suddenly gave. Brave Antilochus saw the narrow place where the road washed out, a sharp dip in the land where massing winter rains broke off the edge, making it all one sunken rut. There Atrides was heading, no room for two abreast. But Antilochus swerved to pass him, lashing his horses off the track, then swerving into him neck and neck, and Atrides, frightened, yelled out at the man, Antilochus, you drive like a maniac. Hold your horses. The track's too narrow here. It widens soon for passing. Watch out! You'll crash your chariot. Wreck us both. So he cried out, but Antilochus drove on all the wilder, cracking his lash for more speed like a man stone deaf, as far as a full shoulder throw of a whirling discus hurled by a young contender testing out his strength. So far they raced dead even, but then Menelaus' pair dropped back as he yielded, cut the pace on purpose. He feared the massive teams would collide on the track, and the tight-strung cars capsize. The men themselves go sprawling into the dust, striving wild for triumph. As his rival passed, the red-haired captain cursed him, Antilochus! No one alive more treacherous than you! Away with you, madman! Damn you! Damn you! How wrong we were when we said you had good sense! You'll never take the prize unless you take the oath! Turning back to his team, calling and shouting them on. Don't hold back! Don't stop now, gold as you are! That team in the lead will sag in the leg before you, robbed of their prime, their racing days are done! And lashed with fear by the master's angry voice, they put on a surge, closing on them fast. And all the while, the armies, tense in a broad circle, watched for horses flying back on the plain in a rising whirl of dust. The first to make them out was the Cretan captain, Idomeneus, sat perched on a rise outside the ring, a commanding lookout point, and hearing a driver shouting out in the distance, recognized the voice, could see a stallion too, far in the lead, unmistakable. A big chestnut beauty. All but the blaze he sported, stark white on his forehead, round as a full moon. He sprang to his feet, calling to cohorts, Friends, the lords of the Argives, oh my captains, am I the only one who can spot that pair? Or can you see them too? Seems to me it's a new team out in front, a new driver as well, just come into sight. The mares of Eumelus must have come to grief somewhere downfield. They led on the way out. I saw them heading for the first turn, by God, but I can't find them now anywhere. Hard as I look, left and right, scanning the whole Trojan plain, he lost his reins. He lost control of his horses, round the post, and they failed to make the turn. That's where he got thrown, I'd say. His chariot smashed, and his horses went berserk and bolted off. Stand up, look for yourselves. I can't make them out. Not for certain. No, but the leader seems to me an Aetolian man by birth. He's king of the Argives, horse-breaking Tydeus' son. Ha! Rugged Diomedes. But quick little Ajax rounded on him roughly. This talk, Idomeneus. Why are you always sounding off? They still have a way to go out there. Those racing teams. You two, you're a far cry from the youngest Argive here. Nor are the eyes in your head our sharpest scouts, but you're always blustering, you foul mouth. Why must we have you blurting out this way in the face of keener men? These mares in front are the same that led before. The Eumelus mares! Look, and there's Eumelus now! Astride his chariot, gripping the reins himself. But the Cretan captain burst back in answer. Ajax, champion wrangler, in all the ranks. Stupid, too. First and last the worst man in the Argive armies, you stubborn, bull-necked fool. Come now, and let's both put up a tripod or a cauldron. Wager which horses are really out in front, and we'll make Atrides Agamemnon our referee. You'll learn, don't worry, once you pay the price. Ajax rose in fury to trade him taunt for taunt, and now the two of them might have come to blows if Achilles himself had not stood up to calm them. Enough! No more trading your stinging insults now, Ajax, Idomeneus. It's offensive. This is not the time. You'd be the first to blame a man who railed this way. Sit down in the ring, you two, and watch the horses. They'll be home in a moment, racing hard to win. Then each can see for himself who comes in second and who takes off first prize. In the same breath, Diomedes came on storming toward them. Closer. Look, closing, lashing his team nonstop, full shoulder strokes making them kick high as they hurtled toward the goal. Constant sprays of dust kept pelting back on the driver, the chariot sheathed in gold and tin careening on in the plunging stallion's wake, its spinning rims hardly leaving a rut behind in the thin dust as the team thundered in, a whirlwind finish. He reined them back in the ring with drenching sweat, lather streaming down to the ground from necks and chests. Their master leapt down from the bright burnished car, propped his whip on the yoke. His aide lost no time. The hardy Sthenelus rushed to collect the prizes, gave their proud troops the woman to lead away, and they carried off the handsome two-eared tripod as he was loosing the horses from the harness. Antilochus next, the son of Nestor, drove in second, beating Atrides, not by speed, but by cunning. But still Menelaus kept his racers close behind, tight as the closing gap between the wheel and horse when he hauls his master's car top speed across the flats, the very tip of his tail brushing the running rim, and the wheel spins closer, hardly a gap between as he sweeps the open plain. That much, no more, Menelaus trailed Antilochus, dauntless driver. At first, he'd trailed him a full discus throw, but now he was closing, gaining on him fast. Yes, blazed with all her fury and flowing mane, Agamemnon's mare was coming on with a strong surge, and now if the two teams had a longer course to run, Menelaus would have passed him. No dead heat about it. Then Idomeneus, good aid, Meriones, came in fourth, trailing the famed Atrides by a spear throw. His team had sleek manes, but the slowest pace afield, and the man himself was the poorest racing driver. But Admetus' son Eumelus came in last of all, dragging his fine chariot, flogging his team before him. Seeing him there, the swift Achilles, filled with pity, rose in their midst and said these winging words: "The best man drives his purebred team home last. Come, let's give him a prize, it's only right. But second prize, of course, Tydeus' son must carry off the first." So he said, and the armies called assent to what he urged. And now, spurred by his comrades' quick approval, Achilles was just about to give the man the mare when Antilochus, son of magnanimous old Nestor, leapt to his feet and lodged a formal protest. "Achilles, I'll be furious if you carry out that plan. Do you really mean to strip me of my prize? So concerned that his team and car were wrecked, and the fellow, too, for all his racing skills? Why, he should have prayed to the deathless gods. Then he would never have finished last of all. You pity the man? You're fond of him, are you? You have hoards of gold in your tents, bronze, sheep, serving girls by the score, and purebred racers, too? Pick some bigger trophy out of the whole lot and hand it on to the man. But do it later, or now, at once, and win your troops' applause. I won't give up the mare. The one who wants her, step this way and try, huh? You'll have to fight me for her with his fists." He flared up, and the swift runner Achilles smiled, delighting in Antilochus. He liked the man immensely. He answered him warmly, winged words. "Antilochus, you want me to fetch an extra gift from my tents, a consolation prize for Eumelus? I'm glad to do it. I'll give him the breastplate I took from Asteriopalius. It's solid bronze with a glittering overlay of tin, rings on rings, a gift he'll value highly. He asked Automedon, ready aid, to bring the breastplate from his tents, and he went and brought it, handed it to Eumelus, and the man received it gladly. But now Menelaus rose, his heart smoldering, still holding a stubborn grudge against Antilochus. A crier put a staff in his hands and called for silence. With all his royal weight Atrides thundered, Antilochus, you used to have good sense. Now see what you've done. Disgraced my horsemanship. You've fouled my horses. Cutting before me, you with your far slower team. Quickly, lords of the Argives, all my captains, judge between us, impartially, no favoritism, so none of our bronze-armed men can ever say only with lies did Atrides beat Antilochus out and walk off with the mare. His team was far slower, but the king's own rank and power took the prize. Wait, I'll settle things myself. I have no fear that any Achaean will accuse me. I'll be fair. Come over here, Antilochus, royal prince. This is the old custom. Come, stand in front of your team and chariot, grasping the coiling whip to lash them home. Lay your hand on their manes and swear by the mighty God who grips and shakes the earth, you never blocked my chariot. Not by deliberate foul. Antilochus came to his senses and backed off quickly. No, please, I'm much younger than you are, Lord Menelaus. You're my senior. You, the greater man. You know how the whims of youth break all the rules. Our wit's quicker than wind, our judgment just as flighty. Bear with me now. I'll give you this mare I won on my own accord. And any finer trophy you'd ask from my own stores, I'd volunteer at once. Gladly, Atrides, my royal king. Anything but fall from your favor all my days to come and swear a false oath in the eyes of every god. With that, the son of magnanimous old Nestor led the mare and turned her over to Menelaus' hands. And his heart melted now like the dew that wets the corn when the fresh stalks rise up and the ripe fields ripple. So the heart in your chest was melted now, Menelaus, and you gave your friend an answer, winged words. Antilochus, not that I tried to yield to you for all my mounting anger. You who were never wild or reckless in the past, it's only youth that got the better of your discretion just this once. But the next time, be more careful. Try to refrain from cheating your superiors. No other Achaean could have brought me round so soon, but seeing that you have suffered much and labored long, your noble father, your brother too, all for my sake, I'll yield to your appeal. I'll even give you the mare, though she is mine. So our people here will know the heart inside me is never rigid, unrelenting. He handed back the mare to Antilochus's man. Neemon led her off, while Atrides took instead the polished cauldron, bright in all its sheen. Meriones, who had come in fourth, took fourth prize, the 2 bars of gold. That left the 5th unclaimed, the jar with double handles. Bearing it through the crowd, Achilles gave it to Nestor, standing close beside him, urging, Here, old friend, a trophy for you, too. Lay it away as a treasure. Let it remind you of the burial of Patroclus. Never again will you see him among the Argives. I give you this prize, a gift for giving's sake, for now you will never fight with fists, or wrestle, or enter the spear throw, or race on sprinting feet. The burdens of old age already weigh you down. And Achilles placed the trophy in Nestor's hands. He, thrilled to have it, and spoke out winging words. True, my son, all of it, right on the mark. My legs no longer firm, my friend, dead on my feet. nor do my arms go shooting from my shoulders. The stunning punch, the left and right, are gone. Oh, make me young again, and strength inside me steady as a rock, as fresh as I was. That day the Epians buried Lord Amarciangus and Bupricion, and his sons held games to celebrate the king. No one could match me there. None among the Epians, not even our own Pylians or Aetolia's hardy men. At boxing, I just Clytomedes, an ops boy. And Caius of Pluron wrestled against me. Down he went. Fast as if Ichthus was, I raced him to his knees, With a spear I outhurled Phileus. Polydorus, too. On that chariot racing, the sons of Actor beat me. 2 against 1, cutting before me, hell-bent to win, for the biggest prize was left for the last event. But it took twins, one with the reins rock steady, holding them rock steady. The other lashed the team. So that's the man I was. But now's the time for the younger men to lock in rough encounters. Time for me to yield to the pains of old age. There was a day I shone among the champions. Well, you must get on with your friend's burial now. The games must go on. I accept this gladly. My old heart rejoices. You'll never forget my friendship. Never miss a chance to pay me the honor I deserve among our comrades. For all that you have done for me, Achilles, may the immortals fill your cup with joy. He savored every word of Nestor's story. Then Achilles made his way through crowds of troops and set out prizes next for the bruising boxing match. He fetched and tethered a heavy-duty mule in the ring, 6 years old, unbroken, the hardest kind to break, and offered the loser a cup with double handles. He rose up tall and challenged all the Argives. Son of Atreus, all you Achaeans, men-at-arms, we invite 2 men, our best, to compete for these. Put up your fists and fight for what you're worth. The man that Apollo helps outlast the other, clearly witnessed here by Achaea's armies. He takes this beast of burden back to his tent, but the one he beats can have the 2-eared cup. And a powerful, huge man loomed up at once. Panoppea's son, Epeius, the famous boxing champion. He clamped a hand on the draft mule and he shouted, "Step right up and get it, whoever wants that cup. This mule is mine, I tell you. No Achaean in sight would knock me out and take her. I am the greatest. So what if I'm not a world-class man of war? How can a man be first in all offense? I've on you, soldiers, so help me, it's the truth. I'll crush you with body blows. I'll crack your ribs to splinters. You keep your family mourners near to cart you off, huh? Once my fists have worked you down to a pulp." Dead silence. So the armies met his challenge. Only Euryalus rose to take him on, heroic volunteer, bred of Talaus blood, and a son of King Megisteus, who went to Thebes in the old days when Oedipus fell, and there at his funeral games defeated all the Thebans. The spearman Diomedes served as the man's second, goading him on, intent to see him win. First, he cinched him round the boxer's belt, and then taking rawhide thongs cut from a field ox, wrapped his knuckles well. Both champions, belted tight, stepped into the ring, squared off at each other and let loose, trading jabs with their clenched fists and slugged it out. Flurries of jolting punches, terrific grinding of jaws, sweat rivering, bodies glistening. Suddenly, Euryalus glanced for an opening, dropped his guard, and Epeius heard his smashing roundhouse hook to the head, a knockout blow! He could keep his feet no longer. Knees caved in on the spot, as under the ruffling north wind a fish goes arching up and flops back down on a beach break strewn with seaweed, and a dark wave blacks him out. So he left his feet, and down he went, out cold. But big-hearted Epeius hoisted him in his arms and stood him upright. A band of loyal followers rushed to help him, led him out of the ring, his feet dragging, head lolling to one side, spitting clots of blood. Still senseless after they propped him up in their corner. and they had to fetch the two-eared cook themselves. Quickly Achilles displayed before the troops the prizes set for the third event, the grueling wrestling match. For the winner, a large tripod made to stride a fire and worth a dozen oxen, so the soldiers reckoned. For the loser, he led a woman through their midst worth 4, they thought, and skilled in many crafts. And he rose up tall, and he challenged all the Achaeans. Now, two, come forward, fight to win this prize. And the giant Ajax got to his feet at once. Odysseus stood up too, an expert at every subtle cunning hold. Both champions, belted tight, stepped into the ring and grappling each other with big burly arms locked like rafters, a master builder bolts together, slanting into a pitched roof to fight the ripping winds, and their backbones creaked as scuffling hands tugged for submission holds. Sweat streamed down their spines, and clusters of raw welts broke out on ribs and shoulders, slippery, red with blood. And still they grappled, harder, locking for victory, locked for that burnished tripod. Odysseus, no more able to trip and bring to ground his man than Ajax could, Odysseus' brawn held out. Stalemate. And the troops were growing bored. So at last the giant Ajax spurred his rival, grunting, Son of Laertes, resource for one enough. You hoist me, or I hoist you, and leave the rest to Zeus. As Ajax heaved him up, Odysseus never missed a trick. He kicked him behind the knee, clipping the hollow, cut his legs from under him, knocked him backward, pinned as Odysseus flung himself across his chest. That roused the crowd. They leaned to look and marveled. The next throw now long endured Odysseus' turn. He tried to hoist great Ajax, budged him a little off the ground, true, but he could not heave him clear. Then hooked him round a knee, and down they sprawled together. Both men clenched in a death lock, tussling round in dust. And now they'd have jumped up, gone for the third fall, if Achilles himself had not stepped in and stopped them. No more struggling. Don't kill yourselves in sport. Victory goes to both. Share the prizes. Off you go, so the rest of the men can have a crack at contests. And they listened gladly, nodding at his decision, wiped the dust from their backs, and pulled their shirts on. Achilles quickly set out prizes for the foot race, a silver bowl, gorgeous, just 6 measures deep, but the finest mixing bowl in all the world. Nothing could match its beauty, a masterpiece that skilled Sidonian craftsmen wrought to perfection. Phoenician traders shipped across the misty seas and, mooring in Thoas roads, presented to the king. Eunaeus, son of Jason, gave it to Prince Patroclus, the ransom paid to release Lycaon, Priam's son. This was the bowl Achilles offered up at games to commemorate his great friend. For the one racer who proved the fastest on his feet. For the runner-up, he produced a massive ox with rippling folds of fat and half a bar of gold for him who came in last. He rose up tall and challenged all the Achaeans. Now, men, come forward, fight to win this prize. And the racing Oilean Ajax sprang up at once. Odysseus quick at tactics too, and then Nestor's son, Antilochus, fastest of all the young men in the ranks. Achilles pointed out the post. They towed the line and broke flat out from the start, and Ajax shot ahead, with quick Odysseus coming right behind him, close as the weaver's rod to a well-sashed woman's breast when she deftly pulls it toward her, shooting the spool across the warp, still closer pressing her breast. So close Odysseus sprinted, hot on Ajax's heels, feet hitting his tracks before the dust could settle, and quick Odysseus panting, breathing down his neck, always forcing the pace, and all the Argives shouting, cheering him on as he strained for triumph, sprinting on and fast in the home stretch, spurting toward the goal. Odysseus prayed in his heart to blazing-eyed Athena. Hear me, goddess, hear me. Hurry, urge me on. So Odysseus prayed, and Athena heard his prayer, put springs in his limbs, his feet, his fighting hands, and just as the whole field came lunging in for the trophy, Ajax slipped at a dead run. Athena tripped him up, right where the dung lay slick from bellowing cattle. The swift runner Achilles slew in Patroclus' honor. Dung stuffed his mouth, and his nostrils dripped muck as shining, long-enduring Odysseus flashed past him to come in first by far and carry off the cup, while Ajax took the ox. The racer, in all his glory, just stood there, clutching one of the beast's horns, spitting out the dung, and sputtering to his comrades. Foul by heaven, the goddess fouled my finish. Always beside Odysseus, just like the man's mother, rushing to put his rivals in the dust. They all roared with laughter at his expense. Antilochus came in last and carried off his prize with a broad smile and a joke to warm his comrades. I'll tell you something you've always known, my friends. Down to this very day, the gods prefer old-timers. Look at Ajax now, with only a few years on me, but Odysseus, why, he's out of the Dark Ages, one of the old relics. But in green old age, they say, no mean feat to beat him out in a race, for all but our Achilles. Battering so, he flattered swift Achilles, and the matchless runner paid him back in kind. Antilochus, how could I let your praise go unrewarded? Here's more gold, a half bar more in the bargain. He placed it in his hands, and he was glad to have it. Then Achilles carried into the army's broad ring a spear trailing its long shadow, laid it down, and beside it placed a battle shield and helmet, the arms Patroclus stripped from Lord Sarpedon. And Achilles rose and challenged all the Argives. We invite 2 men, our best, to compete for these. Full battle gear. Take up your slashing bronze lances. Fight it out with each other. Duel before the troops. The soldier who gets in first and cuts a rival's flesh, who pierces armor to draw blood and reaches entrails, I'll give that man this broadsword. Silver-studded, handsome Thracian work I stripped from Asteropaeus. But both fighters will share this armor, bear it off, and we'll give them a victor's banquet in our tents. And huge Telamonian Ajax rose to meet the challenge. Tydeus' son rose too, the powerful Diomedes. Both men armed at opposite sides of the forces. Into the ring they strode and met, burning for battle, glances menacing, wild excitement seizing all their comrades, and just coming in range, just closing on each other, they made 3 rapid charges, 3 lunges, and then Ajax stabbed through Tydides' round-balanced shield, but failed to reach his flesh, saved by the breastplate just behind the buckler. But now Diomedes, thrusting over the giant's massive shield again and again, threatened to graze his throat, the spear point glinting sharp, and such terror for Ajax struck his Argive friends, they cried for them to stop, to divide the prizes, share and share alike. But the hero Achilles took the great long sword, and he gave it to Diomedes, slung in its sheath on a supple, well-cut sword strap. And now Achilles set out a lump of pig iron, the shot Ixion used to put with all his power before the swift runner Pylades brought him down and hauled it off in the ships with his other wealth. Achilles rose up tall and challenged every Achaean. Now men come forward, compete to win this prize, an ingot big enough to keep the winner in iron for 5 wheeling years. Though his rich estates lie far away in the country, it won't be want of iron that brings his shepherd or plowman into town. He'll be well stocked at home. That was his offer. And up stood Polypaetus, always braced for battle. Leonteus flanked him, strong, intense as a god. Then Telamon's son, great Ajax, Lord Epeius too. They stood in a row. Big Epeius hefted the iron, swung and heaved it, and comrades burst out laughing. Next, the veteran Leonteus gave the weight a hurl, and then Ajax came up third, and the giant flung it hard with his rippling brawny arm to pass all other marks. But then Polypaetus, braced for battle, took the weight, and far as a seasoned herdsman flings his throwing staff, whirling in flight across his cows to keep them all in line, so he out-hurled the whole field. The armies roared. The powerful Polypaetus men sprang up to bear the king's trophy back to their hollow ships. Archery next. And again Achilles set out iron dark gray trophies, 10 double-headed axes, 10 with single heads. He stepped the mast of a dark, proud man of war far down the beach and tethered a fluttering dove atop the pole, its foot looped with a light cord, then challenged men to shoot and hit that mark. The man who hits the fluttering dove up there can carry the whole array of double axes home. Whoever misses the bird but still hits the cord, he's the loser, true, but he takes the single heads. Toucaire, the master archer, rose to meet the challenge. Meriones joined him, Idomeneus rough and ready aid. They dropped lots in a bronze helmet. They shook it hard, and the lot fell to Toucaire to shoot first. He quickly loosed an arrow, full draw force, but never swore to the archer he'd slaughter splendid victims, newborn lambs, so he missed the dove. Apollo grudged him that. But he hit the cord that tethered the bird's foot. The tearing arrow split the cord straight through, and the bird shot into the sky and left the tether dangling down to the ground. The armies roared applause. But already clutching a shaft while Toucaire aimed, Meriones leapt to snatch the bow from his hand and quickly swore to the distant deadly archer he'd slaughter splendid victims, newborn lambs. Up under the clouds he glimpsed the fluttering dove, and there, as she wheeled, he hit her right beneath the wing and straight through the heart, and out the arrow passed, plunged at Meriones' foot, and stabbed the earth hard. The dove settled onto the mast of the dark proud ship, her neck wrenched awry, her beating wings went slack, and life breath flew from her limbs that instant. Down she dropped, a long drop down to the ground, and the armies looked on wonder-struck and marveled. Meriones carried off the double axes, all 10. Toucaire took the singles back to his hollow ships. Finally, Achilles produced a spear that trailed its long shadow, a cauldron, too, untouched by fire, chased with flowers and worth an ox, and set them down in a ring. And now the spear throwers rose up to compete. Atrides, Agamemnon, lord of the far-flung kingdoms, flanked by Idomeneus, rough and ready aid Meriones, but the swift runner Achilles interceded at once. Atrides, well we know how far you excel us all. No one can match your strength at throwing spears. You are the best by far. Take first prize and return to your hollow ships, while we award this spear to the fighter Meriones, if that would please your heart. That's what I propose. And Agamemnon, the lord of men, could not resist. Achilles gave the bronze-shod spear to Meriones, and the winning hero Atrides gave his own prize to his herald Talthybius, the king's burnished trophy.